Hello and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
Today, two artists reach into the pile of movies, games, video,
art,
Legos.
any sort of medium that moves you. And we try to find what's worth taking with you.
Exactly. And today we're talking about something that's worth taking with you. We're talking about Glass Onion, guys. The almost Christmas release on Netflix of because it came out in theaters a couple weeks beforehand. I think to just be able to be like, we can get nominated for the Oscar, right? Yeah, we can get nominated. All right, cool.
Get it in before the year's out.
And then they released it on Christmas, and we've been putting this off because I've only seen I just watched it.
What is this?
I just watched
stuff?
it. That's what I'm saying. I just watched it. How many times have you seen this movie already, Sean?
4.5 because I started it this morning just to like refresh a little bit.
That's why I brought it up. I was like, Deshaun's seen this an insane amount already. So I'm excited about this episode. First off, because we love Ryan Johnson. We love him. In this house, in this Warp Shelf house, we stan Johnson. And
so if you're a new fan listening to the podcast for the first time and you one of those people who hates The Last Jedi, sorry, we love it.
Sorry. Yep, you're in the...
Take that as you will. You can stay or you can go.
No, and you should stay because you should hear why somebody loves something you probably hate so much, and I feel like there's been a little bit of hate on this movie also, and I don't know if that's still just like Star Wars kids being like, yeah, fuck that guy, he fucked up Star Wars, I will eat his ass. There
is a little bit of it. I remember even when Knives Out was coming out, there's still just the salt. Just like, how dare you make any other movie? You made a Star Wars I didn't like.
Exactly. They're like, I thought your career would be ruined. Even though it did super well in theaters. I thought it would be ruined just from fan reaction. You're like, nah, that's not how business works. They still see him as he is one of the top directors that's alive today. And I think that's what's so great about this like Netflix contract he's got going on here is basically he can make as many Knives Out mysteries as he wants, or what is it? Knives Out Tale. Yeah. What's the name of this movie, Deshaun?
Mystery. I gotta say it. It's a stupid subtitle. The full title is Glass Onion: A Knives Out Mystery. And even Ryan Johnson himself has said he hates that title. It was something mandated on him. He didn't want it. He just wanted to be just like any or the sort of like anthology you get with detective stories where each case just has a different name. You just know by the way it's advertised that it's the same recurring character solving these mysteries.
Right.
I think a way to actually compromise on that and still not have it be so on the nose would be to call it a Benoit Blanc mystery, but have that subtitle be in the Knives Out font.
Yeah. Yeah. Understandable. I think, so I was sitting in the car doing the voice, like I'm trying to figure it out because I agree that a Knives Out mystery isn't good. So I was trying to do it in the announcer voice. You're like, Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Or do you do Knives Out 2, Glass Onion?
That would have been even worse, I think.
That it's worse. It's worse.
Yeah.
Because calling it Knives Out 2 doesn't work because that's not what... That's the problem. Knives Out is a specific title. It's like calling the James Bond collection the Dr. No, a Dr.
From
No
Russia
thriller.
With Love, a Dr. No spy thriller.
Yeah, right? You're like, wait, hold on, that doesn't make any fucking sense. So, yeah, I agree with you. A Benoit Blanc mystery would have worked. Just having Knives Out there just doesn't make any sense. I know they're doing it this time. I hope they ditch it for Knives Out 3. I know I'm going to refer to it as 3, but that's kind of the thing I love about what's going on here is that I think a lot of people go in being like, oh, he was just trying to make a fancier Knives Out, like that's what a lot of the hate I've seen. They're like, oh, they're all obnoxious characters. And you're like, well, they're all murder subjects. So yeah. That's every murder mystery. You're like, what?
even in Knives Out, like all the characters that weren't Marta were fucking assholes.
Right? You're like, are you shitting me? Like, I know that, but that was kind of
even the like progressive
So-
daughter who like supports Marta turns out to be manipulative and shitty.
right. You're like, damn. I want to I want to talk about the criticisms that come with this movie right off the bat because
Okay.
I enjoyed this movie. Do I think it's better than Knives Out? I don't. It's hard. It's hard to beat Knives Out.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is.
But I don't think
that,
there's like a huge gap between them either.
No, exact. And that's what I'm trying to say here. A lot of people are going in and just being disappointed. It's not somehow better than Knives Out. And you're like, no, this is just the continuing adventures. This is a different, like I see this as a serial. I see this as almost like, I see this as the way like they're doing the Kenneth Branagh Death on the Nile, the Agatha Christie stuff. They're
the
doing,
Hercule Poirot stuff.
Yeah, it's like I see that's what this is. Like I see that this is our it's Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig doing that, where they're like, hey, we're doing Agatha Christie, we're doing our own murder mysteries, like, and we're gonna turn it into an anthology that could go on forever. We want it to go on, like it's just however they feel.
Yeah, so far it's been Ryan just being like, I'll do it as long as Daniel Craig wants to, and Daniel Craig being like, I'll do it as long as Ryan wants to.
And I know Netflix has signed on for at least 3, at least Knives Out 3. I think 4 is part of the contract. So that's what I feel is kind of the weird criticism going on here is people are like, oh, it's not as good as Knives Out. And you're like, yeah, but is it a good sequel? Yes. I think this is a good sequel. I think that's what's cool about this is that this is a fun sequel. This is a bigger, more luxurious, obviously bigger budgeted sequel, but it just kind of shows off more of the character, of Benoit Blanc and kind of how his mysteries go down in his life. And I think
it's also just a lot more of him.
Yeah.
Like he was always sort of like a figure that hung over Knives Out, where this feels like there's much more, he's much more of a focal point this time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there's, I mean, of course, I love him in this role. I think that that's what I have to say here is that if you're not already head over heels for Benoit Blanc, that's might be the huge hurdle for this movie. I feel like a lot of people, hating is that I feel like if you're not just overly joyed with Benoit Blanc the way that Daniel Craig obviously is, that's where you might not love Knives Out and this movie.
Between this and like Logan Lucky, like these two movies and Logan Lucky, just the idea that like Daniel Craig just so exhausted from doing Bond for so long is just like, can I just play a dude with a funny accent, please?
Please.
I just want to have fun. I'm just here to vibe.
And that's really it. Is I think that's the fun of this movie is everyone's having fun with this movie. I think everyone's having a good time working on this, and I fully I feel like that's what radiates from this movie is that Daniel Craig's having a good time. Rian Johnson's having a good time. Janelle Monáe's having a great time, of course. And so is, the whole cast is having just a great time.
Dave Bautista, Leslie Odom Jr., Jessica Henwick.
I think that this is actually a really spectacular cast. I think you got to bring that up.
It's obvious because it's Edward Norton, but I'm always excited when I see Edward Norton in something, especially in these days in his career. He's much more selective about projects, so I don't see him as often. Yeah. The last time I think I saw him was in like Grand Budapest Hotel, which was like 2014, and like Birdman. And then I heard him in Isle of Dogs a couple of years ago, but I don't see him as often anymore.
Yeah, you didn't see French Dispatch?
No, I still haven't seen French Dispatch yet.
Oh yeah, I saw French Dispatch. It was pretty good. It wasn't, I wasn't head over heels, but it was pretty good. He was also in Alita, which I still need to see. I've read part of the manga. I still need to see that. But yes, I agree. Edward Norton is such a gem constantly that like him being the main guy in this makes it like a worthwhile watch. You know, like you're
Miles Braun, the
Miles Braun.
billionaire parable. Here's the thing, and this is in my notes. Glass Onion overall is definitely angrier than Knives Out was. Rian Johnson seemed to be just as angry and livid about lockdown and the pandemic as, say, you and I were. And I'm here for him trying to get some shit off his chest.
I think I've heard a lot of complaints about people being like, I don't like that it's set during the pandemic. No movies acknowledge the pandemic. And you're like, well, don't you think that's fucking weird? Don't you think we had a world disaster and we don't mention it in any of our movies? Like, that's fucking weird. That it's weird to block it out like that and like fully have escapism on something that happened on a global level. You're like, I think we can let it go and have a few movies that introduce
and this speaks to like something that Johnson likes to bring up in interviews for both Knives Out and this, is that although it doesn't resonate with us now, Agatha Christie novels were always talking about what was up with the times.
Right.
It doesn't resonate now because they're just old-timey books to us, but they were always talking about like social issues.
Right. And then you go back and you're like, wow, they were talking about this. And you're like at the time it didn't seem like it was that important. They say that about Anna Karenina too. Like they were like, I was just writing about what the fuck was going on, you know, around here. I thought it was going to be boring. And like people look back on it like, what? You know, like, and it's like, it's true. It's like you write about normal life in your current age and eventually it becomes this period piece, you know, like it's interesting. And I think it's especially important in mystery things, you know, like I feel like it's like you can dissect these important things. Okay, so here's my thing, the real thing that I think is the real criticism going on here and why it essentially this is people don't feel as satisfied with Knives Out, with Glass Onion as they do Knives Out, and it's right there in the title, The Glass Onion. It's this big, elaborate, big showy thing. Like the movie is this big vacation. They go to their own island. There's this big millionaire. There's this big mystery, but really, it's only about the mystery. And really, the mystery was all in our faces almost from the very get-go, you know, from the very beginning. And I think that's... And it's sort of making this comment on that, like, we look up to these millionaires and we see them as these complicated, smart beings. But as we've learned with Elon Musk and that I couldn't tweet this past week, it said I hit a limit, which I was like, I haven't tweeted today, like, or this week. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Hitting a limit, Musk? Like, what the fuck? Obviously, the man's an idiot, you know, like, and the man doesn't know what he's doing. And he basically was like, threatening to buy Twitter and then was twisted his arm into buying Twitter. He was like trying to play games and then was forced into buying Twitter. And we got to see how much of a dumbass he is constantly. And I think that I think we get to see more of a lens than was before, where we got to be like, oh, wow, he's making electric vehicles. But really, he bought Tesla. You know, he didn't make Tesla,
and the funny thing is, like, this movie was written and made before the Twitter buyout.
Yeah, and it's one of those things
Johnson has also joked about. It's just like, that is unfortunate, but also hilarious.
He says it's not about Musk. He says it's not, but you can kind of see Miles.
But Musk is under the umbrella of that archetype.
Yes, because
unintentionally or not. There's
Miles,
a little Steve Jobs in there too.
Yeah, I was saying Miles is a little bit based on. We have Zuckerberg's like a little bit, you know, like his like grandeur in his weirdness, and some Elon Musk, and of course I think you were right with the Steve Jobs, where you're like, I think there's a lot going they're like playing into here, and I think that's what's cool. What's great about this movie, but it's also what the average viewer won't like. Is that they'll feel like, oh, I could guess this movie early on. You know,
Which I did.
Which I did too. I was like, I think it's him, but that's obviously not, you know, what's important about it. It's how you get there. You know, like it's not like you know, finding out you know, seeing a murder at the beginning doesn't. Calling it early doesn't ruin a movie. You know, like it doesn't. No. I can call most movies. It doesn't ruin it. But I feel like a lot of viewers view it that way if they can like call something early. And I'm like, hey, welcome to my fucking world where I call, I don't know if it's my ADHD or the fucking film school, but I can call every fucking movie I watch. I don't need to watch a movie. I can call it before I fucking watch it. Like I literally like it's literally that I do that all the time.
I called Brad Pitt's character being Raph before it was revealed in 7.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Which I'll give him credit. That's pretty fucking good. But like, you know, like it's one of those things where like I hate the movie Usual Suspects because I can call Kevin Bacon so early, like almost right away. Spacey, sorry, fuck, not Bacon. Bacon deserves better than that. Spacey's the piece of shit in this movie.
Now I'm picturing Kaiser Soze as played by Kevin Bacon.
I'd watch that.
He could do it.
He could do it. Bacon can do anything, really. But it's one of those. Fuck, I got confused by the Kevin Bacon. But like a lot of people get upset, and I understand when you can call something too early. Like you feel like a little gypped when that's kind of the play of it. But that's not what's the play of it here. Like it's almost like the script is made to kind of be like, no, I'm showing you almost immediately what's happening and going on.
Yeah,
it's so clear. It's a glass onion. There's lots of layers, but he's right there.
It's a tightrope to balance that kind of mystery where you're hiding the solution in plain sight and hoping no one notices. It's really hard to pull off well. So a good way to circumvent that, and which Rian Johnson does, is the who is less interesting than the how.
Yes, which is what my wife actually said. She was like, it's not the who, it's the how. And I'm like, yeah. And that's really it, is that I feel like a lot of people, they're upset by that they can call it early, but that's almost the point of this, is that not only is it like a glass onion, but our main villain is dumb, like is actually bad at this. There's no twists, there's no turns, it's like he's bad at this, and Benoit Blanc has his number the whole fucking time. And that's kind of and that's really why it's about the how, because you can be like, oh, obviously it's Miles, he's the rich bad guy, you know, like, you're like, and he's being shady, you know, like
I called it. When did I call it? I called it when Andy and Blanc were having their conversation at the diner, like sitting down. Like,
first off, guys, sorry, spoiler area. Obviously, if we're talking about the fucking ending,
but we're also talking about this so late.
Yeah, because we're 18 minutes in, but like which I feel like that's late enough in a podcast to be like, guys.
No, I'm talking about late talking about this movie in general. It came out.
Oh, come on, a month ago. Let's be real. Like, okay, 2 months ago. 2 months ago. Okay. All right, fair, fine. It's not like super light. It's not years later. It's not like
it's still longer than you should have taken, Frank. So I'm trying to save yourself. It ain't gonna happen.
Okay. Fine. That's fair.
I caught it with their conversation with Blanc and Andy, where she literally jokes like, "What if Miles just did it?"
Yeah,
and that was the thing for me. That was just like, okay, Miles did it.
Yeah, you're like, hey, Johnson wouldn't have done that. Wouldn't have said that in his script if it wasn't it. You know, like I also caught that moment where I was like, that's it right there. You know, you're like there it is. And I think that's a lot of the kind of fun of this movie is and what makes it weird and what makes people be like, I'm kind of disappointed, is that the main villain is dumb.
Yeah, and plus it's not like it doesn't like keep you guessing and keep turning in on itself, because the initial mystery you're presented is who killed Duke.
Yes.
And you think that's the entire focal point. In fact, no, even before that, you think, oh, they're setting up a murder mystery party. Yeah. What you think is probably going to happen is that Miles is going to die for real, and we're going to have to figure that out. That's subverted.
Which is a classic. Yeah, which is classic. Which is what Knives Out does. It takes a classic. The last Knives Out took a classic murder mystery situation and twisted, and then turned the Rubik's Cube this way and twisted. This is like, hey, here's another classic, and we're going to serve it up on a platter. Nope, it wasn't that. Oh, it's this platter over here. Oh, it's not under that platter either.
Knives Out was immediately just like, oh, what happened to Harlan? Here's what happened to Harlan. How's Marta going to get out of this? You're like, fuck. And then you get further layers later. Then with Glass Onion, you have, okay, Miles will probably die at his actual murder mystery party because, irony.
Yeah.
But no, now it's about who killed Duke. Just like, okay, who killed Duke? And now we find out about Andy's whole thing with her sister. So you're like, okay, so that's another layer. And that's even a joke that Blanc makes, adding another layer and another layer. But the whole thing is transparent and plain to see.
Right? It's like almost too easy. And like they would have all seen it, but they're all kind of too dumb to catch it. And I think that's
just
what
kind
really
of
works.
projecting. You expect it to be elaborate, so you're making it elaborate in your head.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is classic Johnson, where he's like, oh, you were like, wow, I love that murder mystery. I love the twists and turns. He's like, I'm going to play on your expectations of that. Same as he did with Last Jedi. He's like, oh, you expect Luke to come out and cut down AT-AT walkers and fuck up the entire First Order. That's not what's going to happen. You know, like that's not what's here. You know, like, and I feel like that's what Johnson does super well, is he plays on people's expectations and gives you something that you didn't realize, you know, like, and it makes it something totally unique. And that's where I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate. They don't appreciate that he's created this weird, unique murder mystery where the villain is not some smart guy who's been playing them from the very beginning. No Moriarty here. There's no strong villain. It's just a dumbass. And I think that's, and lots of dumbasses, and they're, what do they call them? Dipshits.
You bringing up Moriarty, that's like the next logical step, is who's the rival for Blanc.
I want 3 to be that, but also like an obvious subversion of that, you know, like I feel like that's what he'll do. But I feel like that first, that I want to say that this movie is great for setting up 5 more of these. And guess what? I want them. Give them to me.
Every single one of them.
Because first, we're talking about all these things. I think you should get right off the bat. This movie has fantastic writing. I think that's obviously clear. I think Johnson's a master, and he's doing a great job of well structuring and well pacing murder mystery, which can be very hard because they can drag. Things happen often in murder mysteries where you could be moving at a very brisk pace and then you're hitting the floor and then you're off again. But here it's just breakneck speed again to the very end. And I think they did a good job of that. Same way Knives Out. It's a breakneck fucking speed of a movie and gets you to the end. I think Johnson's very good at that, is being like, and you're in the movie and he fucking like cardiac arrests the fucking rest of the movie, you know, like it's just like, and it's just like fucking jacked up. I think
a hot sauce shot through the nostril, if you will.
Yes, there you go. I think right, the fucking hot sauce bits were so fucking funny. And that's another thing I wanted to say. I'm saying fantastic writing because not only is it well structured, well put together, but I was laughing often through this movie, like often. And I think that's very important because there's lots of movies I'm watching and I'm going, you know, like
that's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. Mary, I did find that joint. You know, like it's
yes,
yes, quite humorous. But then there's times where you actually laugh out loud. And I think that's what I mean by, like, you can feel the joy coming off of this. Like, Daniel Craig's having a good time delivering the lines. Johnson's having a great time writing the lines. You know, like, everyone's just having a great time being together on this weird island. You know, like,
I love the
Netflix footing the bill. Everyone's having a good time.
I love the ongoing thing of, like, how on the nose and yet how organic all the, like, celebrity name drops are.
Yes.
Because you have, like, the bit where Blanc is fucking playing Among Us in the tub.
Oh my God! With first off, Stephen Sondheim's and
Angela Lansbury, who
Lansbury's
died like
last
not long
movie.
after that. Yeah.
It's their last movie. These are their last credits, and I think that that's so funny that they get to play themselves in Knives Out. Which, first off, how great is that? All those people in a Zoom meeting together. You know, like you're like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Angela Lansbury, Stephen Sondheim, and
Natasha Lyonne.
And Natasha Lyonne,
Which is
and they're
definitely
playing
a wink,
Among
wink,
Us,
nudge, because this was before Poker Face came out.
right? Isn't it? I thought they were sort of referencing that she was playing Poker Face's character there. I was kind of like,
no,
I was for a second there, but then they said Natasha.
Herself.
Yes, they say Natasha, and I was
Poker
like,
Face is called Charlie. Good show so far. Wish it wasn't a Peacock show.
Yeah, that sucks. You're like, I'm not paying for Peacock. Fuck off. Like, and that's why I need Paramount Plus to Stars to come together. I'm like, I want one less service, please. Like, let's get this together. But I think that opening call is so great.
Even beyond the like Zoom call, the like subtleties of just like, hey, that's the hourly dong. You know, I had Philip Glass write that.
Yeah, I had Philip Glass write it, and then he had somebody
Gillian Flynn write the mystery.
Yes, but he also had somebody it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt voicing the dong. Like the actual dong like noise is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That's like so singing it because he has to have Joseph Gordon-Levitt in every one of his movies, he said. So I was just like, there you go. That's fucking awesome. Like I love shit like that. Yeah, the cameos are amazing. Also, you're talking about just name dropping, which is hilarious, but like the random cameos are so funny. Yo-Yo Ma sits down and explains what a musical what was it? It was it's a musical puzzle, but like what was I forget the term is. But like it's Yo-Yo Ma who sits down and like tells them that, and you're like I know that's Yo-Yo Ma. Like you're like I would know him anywhere.
Williams thing later at the little gym.
Yeah, the Serena Williams thing is actually pretty funny. I was like, what the fuck? Like
it's weird and it's almost too much, but it's so funny because you're like, yeah, this is the dumb shit that people who are way too rich spend their money on.
Right? And you're like, you get to a certain point, you got to make lots of money because they're asking for weird things.
It's so funny because it's all so shallow.
Yes.
Like the fact that
everything's so shallow.
The mystery is so easy, but I hired Gillian Flynn to write it. Just like, you know, the fucking author of Gone Girl and Sharp Objects. But ultimately, it's sort of a children's puzzle when Blanc goes at it.
Yeah.
Same thing with, like, I had Philip Glass, a world-renowned composer, compose Dong, which anyone could have done.
And it's a constant theme that Miles is not very understanding of his art that he has in there. There's one painting that's literally the name of the painting is red over yellow with a gray it's literally the name of the title and of it is how you hang the painting, and then in the movie it's upside down with the red up like on the down piece, and you're like, you dumb fuck. Like you're even
like him saying like, hey, this isn't just a rich asshole vacation as a fucking Boston Dynamics robot walks behind them. That cracked me up so much. That's such a clever joke.
It's so good. You're just like, oh my god. And really that he's obsessed with the Mona Lisa. Because it's kind of this thing where I think some people think they're deep by liking the Mona Lisa, you know, like, and you're just like, you're like, hey, it's kind of an underwhelming painting, you know, like it's really not this amazing thing. And I think it's like they're kind of showing off that like he's got this very basic understanding of art, but somehow he's just like pumping money to collect this stuff as status. You know, like you're like, okay. And I mean, they make fun of it later with so why is the car on the roof? They're like, well, there was no place to drive on the island. You're just like, then what was the fucking point of bringing the car? Like what the fuck? I also love that the car blows up at the end. I fucking thought that was so damn funny. But I think that that's the great part about this movie is that it is so apparent with it who with what everything going on, you know, like it's just all right there. It's just not saying it constantly, which I think is what's so special about this, is that like there's all these glass motifs they have there, but they're obviously not worth it. My favorite piece in the entire room, other than the upside down art piece, is of course that he's got, which is an actual real piece where it's Edward Norton's head on Brad Pitt's body from Fight Club, and they just have that in the background there. And like,
I did see that.
I love that because like it's like a double thing where it's like in universe his character is just being like, I want to be like Brad Pitt, but like you're like, yeah, but that's Edward Norton. You're like wait 1 fucking second, you know, like he's watching a movie with himself in it. What the fuck is going on, you know? Sort of thing where you're like that's, I thought that was so funny.
It's like so meta that it'll hurt your head if you try to think about it too hard.
You're like,
but
damn.
I can see that another criticism is also levied as just the core cast beyond just Miles, as being maybe too archetypal as opposed to actually fleshed out. And compared, and especially after doing a double feature of these two back to back, I do sort of get that sense. Like the Knives Out cast feel like genuine people, good and bad, with nuances. Like they're all kind of assholes, but they all feel very realistic. Here,
well, what does she call them? Does she call them dipshits or dumb shits? What does the sister call them? Don't hang out with them dipshits, she says to her sister. Yeah. And that's really it, is that they're not fleshed out because they're dipshits. They're not they're not smart. They go with what's going on. They're yes men, you know, like, and he's around, and like that's kind of the point, right? Is that they're not some big mystery. Even though they all go around and they're like, we found motive for everybody. You're like, yeah, but they wouldn't, because they're yes men, you know, like they just go along with who is gonna save them, you know. Like,
and like Miles, they also act like they're so fucking nuanced, especially Birdie.
Yes.
Kate Hudson is so fucking funny in this movie.
They're all very good in this movie. I thought Dave Bautista was very funny. Catherine Hahn is great. I think everybody.
I think Jessica Henwick's character Peg is kind of like, it's sort of like an unsung performance. But every time I rewatch the movie, I've paid attention to her, what she's doing, and it's some of the funnier stuff. The whole, like, I'm just the assistant, I'm not really part of the group. The little things, like, she clearly has a thing for Andy, and, like, looks at her wide-eyed and delighted, like, wow, look at this beautiful, look at Janelle Monáe, one of the most gorgeous women on the planet, just, like, standing up to all these dickheads, because no one stands up to these dickheads. Or the subtle thing, like, he didn't expect or care that the assistant was coming, so instead of giving her a glass, he gives her a fucking red Solo cup.
You're
and
like,
then later you see her writing her name on it.
Like it's like she needs to do that. You're like, well, they all have the named cups. I thought Leslie Odom Jr. was fantastic. Also, I think that has to be called out here, is that, you know, Leslie Odom Jr. has not had a lot of film roles yet, so I'm really excited that like he had this kind of giant role on Glass Onion. You're like, fuck yeah. It's fucking, you're like, he's gonna shoot Hamilton, but you know, it's gonna be good. The other person I want to shout out in this cast that was absolutely two things that were like really funny in this, that I like almost don't get explained at all, but is super funny. First off is Daryl. Like what the fuck, like what the fuck is up with Daryl? You know, like it's just like,
I think that was kind
what
of
the
the
fuck
joke.
was that?
That's another layer of just like, oh, don't pay attention to me. Should I pay attention to him? I think it plays into that.
Yes.
Just like, they told me not to, so that means I need to. And then it turns out it's like, no, there's no answer. He's just a dude that's vibing on the island. And it's funny because it's the same actor who plays the fucking other detective in Knives Out. It's the same actor. He's playing a different character. So now I want that actor to just keep playing a different character in every one of these with no explanation.
Right. And he gets his own room, so he must be his brother, you know, is what I was thinking. I was like, is Daryl's Miles' brother? Like, he's just like a nobody but lives on the island.
That seems like a relative,
you know, like,
situation.
Right? You're just like, I thought that was so funny. It's like such a rich person thing just to have a sibling living on the island, but you don't treat them as a person almost. You're like, this is so stupid, you know? Like, my other favorite character, and it kind of gives away almost the entire plot, is that Jackie Hoffman as Dave Bautista's mom at the beginning. So fucking funny. First off, just slapping the shit out of Dave Bautista is super funny. But that she solves the puzzle before he even gets to it. First off, it's super funny and had me laughing almost the entire scene with her being like, just yelling out the answers. But it gives away that none of this is actually very deep. This random mother just bored in less than like 10 minutes solved this puzzle, you know?
Even, I mean, even when Blanc describes the puzzle box, he's like, oh, I received the box and had a series of simple children's puzzles. And Miles Bron is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, right? He's like, damn.
Which, to be fair, yeah, but also that puzzle box was really cool.
Yes. To be fair, I was like, man, that's a cool box. I was like, it sure is beautiful. But I love that he didn't even make it. You know, he didn't even make the box. He gave it off to somebody and there was no prototype. It was like they barely made enough boxes, you know, like type of thing. And I thought that was great. I was like, oh man, like it's so wild how deep it goes that like Miles doesn't do anything, you know.
I love the ambiguous, like maybe vaccine / cure that Ethan Hawke gives everyone.
Yeah, that's also one of my favorite cameos is Ethan Hawke just coming in and being like, open your mouth. Like, and like, so what was that? You're good. So I don't have to wear a mask? No, you're good. Like, I was just like, yeah.
It's like, it's funny and yet ominous.
Yes. Because it's funny, ominous, and they never touch it again, which I love. But also it kind of like harkens back the rich didn't have to deal with the pandemic the same way all of us did, you know, like, I mean, that shows from Trump getting sick and literally probably should have fucking died from COVID, but they did everything to get him back to healthy and they didn't, you know, that saved him. And, you know, like, that's kind of one of those things that your grandpa didn't get that fucking amount of health, but Trump definitely did, you know, like, and then we didn't give out that solution to everything, you know, like, come on. What the fuck is up with that? You know, like, that's all I'm saying is that, you know, there was a lot of rich people not dealing with it the same way. And of course, Catherine Hahn having the party at the beginning is one thing where she's like, they're all in my bubble. It's okay.
Catherine Hahn was on TV.
Sorry, my bad. Yes, Kate Hudson. Sorry.
But I do also love the like fucking visual gag of the mask. Like Catherine Hahn's character has her nose out, and Birdie's just wearing one of those stupid fucking mesh masks that don't do anything.
Yeah, right. And Leslie Odom's character is wearing like an actual M95, like the actual thing you should be wearing. Like, I thought that it was great. The mask really summed up everybody. And I thought that was kind of like a nice little touch. I think that's one thing that I think we have to bring up is that the costumes are and everything in this movie is absolutely fantastic.
I watched the first time I'd watched this with Alex, and we both could not get over that fucking pinstriped seersucker bathing suit that Daniel Craig is wearing.
That was gonna be the joke for the intro. I was like, two guys who really want pinstripe bathing suits, like, because they like, who didn't watch that movie and be like, that's the coolest bathing suit I've ever fucking seen in my life? Like, what the fuck was that? I thought that was, first off, hilarious because it's such his character to just be like in a suit in the pool, you know, like not really enjoying himself in the pool, but just like listening to everybody. I thought that was great. But like the suit is so good, and everyone else's costumes are absolutely fantastic,
and they're all character that's important.
Yes, it's one of those things where I think they're up for the Oscar for adapted screenplay, but they should be up for the Oscar for costumes because you're just
what
kind
are
of
they going up against? That's also the question.
Yes, for adapted screenplay, I don't know.
Well, let's adapted screenplay more like what would be their competition if they did get nominated for best like, costumes and makeup.
I would have to look that up because I do do
Across
not
the
know.
board, it's nice. Like Blanc has these like nice like floral outfits, the fucking pink blazer, the seersucker suit. It's super nice. Birdie has that like rainbow dress that she dances in.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. Is like her dress is so nice there that you're like okay, like that is beautiful. So the category, um, for sorry, the best costume design, um, went to it's going up to Black Panther, um, uh, Elvis, and Babylon, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris.
Okay.
So, I think it deserves to be in that list. You're like, I know they're throwing a bone to Babylon there. They're like, hey guys, you want an Oscar nomination? And you're like, here you go.
I need to still watch it myself to see.
Yes, yeah, I'm not shitting on that. I'm just saying, like, it's the only nomination it got. And whenever you see that in the costume design section, where a movie got no other nominations but did get costume design,
well,
like,
that's like most blockbusters, aren't there? It's just like, well, we'll give you a best VFX nomination.
You're like, how's that feel? That feel good? You feel better now? You got an Oscar nom. It's gonna be okay. Like,
that's why you can't say Suicide Squad. You have to say Academy
Oscar
Award-winning Suicide Squad because it won for best makeup and costume.
Shut the fuck up. You shut the fuck up. Right now.
That's Academy Award-winning Suicide Squad to you, sir.
Oh my goodness. All I'm saying is I think it deserves the Oscar for costumes because not many movies do you watch and you think, "Oh my god, everything in this is so impeccably chosen and looks so great."
Yeah,
like,
and it fits the character, and it's also not especially showy because I feel like a lot of those awards can boil down to what's the period piece we had this year?
Yeah, which one did we have? Which one's winning this for period piece? Got all right. Which is fair. It's like it's other costume designers voting on it, and period pieces are fucking hard. Like,
yes. It's also one of those things where like it's best when you don't notice it. It's sort of like the argument towards editing. It's just like, well, the best type of editing is the editing that you're not going to notice.
Yeah, that you're not sitting there going 1, 2, and they cut 1, 2, cut 1, 2, cut. Like that can happen in a lot of movies. You sit there just being like, when will it stop? And then beyond moving beyond the costumes, I think that's but like not beyond, but kind of more into it. I kind of said earlier is that this is the big budget sequel that needed to happen, but like it also is kind of what Johnson deserves. Rian Johnson deserves this kind of like vacation movie. I feel like he's done a lot of movies and got shit on by a lot of people recently, and I feel like it was nice for them to be able to make this nice vacation movie.
Like, yeah, sure, I'll fucking film a movie in Greece. I get to go to Greece.
Yeah, right. That's what I also think too, is when Netflix is bankrolling your movie, you make them take your entire cast and crew on vacation, like you're like just to make it happen. So I want to say that I love that they lampooned on the rich here. I know that I already kind of said it, that he's that rich people are dumb, but I kind of love that was kind of the focus here, because that's kind of the focus of Knives Out too, is that these rich people are assholes and they're about to fuck up this person who didn't have anything to do with it, sort of thing, where you're just like, well, more like his assistant, like somebody who's actually like working for a paycheck instead of these people, and like that's kind of the point of Knives Out. So I kind of like that they kept that theme sort of going, but it was like a different sort of rich, like we're like, hey, we're gonna hit this type now, like instead of this weird family drama, like we're like this weird, all these yes men that hang around really rich people, like you're like, there it is. I also I think one of the things that they call out in the movie, and I think is actually half the reason why Edward Norton took the role, is how much Miles just messes up English words. Like he's a trailer park boy, like he's Ricky, like he's just messing up sayings and saying the wrong words in places. And I think that that's one of the best parts
I'd
of the
caught that a
writing
couple
and
times
acting.
before they did like the big montage, and I'm like, pretty definite. That's not right.
I know he kept saying things, and I was like, that's something that I would, if I didn't know where the end of my sentence was, I would try to make up a word, type of thing.
Yeah.
So you're like, I see you're like, uh-oh, this guy doesn't know how to end his fucking sentences. You're like, there it is. Like, he's just making shit up. Like, I thought that was a great part of the writing, and also kind of the lampooning on this rich guy who just kind of puts on the air
Facade.
of being this huge facade of being a rich guy, when really it's like it really was Andy who did it all, like that's what kills me, is that it's like it's her ambition, it's her idea, and it's like, and it's her group of friends, and then Miles just takes everything from it. Like, Miles is just like and gets all the credit for lifting them up, when in reality they were kind of already heading that way. And like,
can't even come up with his own way to like eliminate the evidence, and just like, well, Blanc said it's like turning off the lights and having a loaded gun. I'll just do that. And then even when fucking
I think that's the best part of Edward Norton's writing, acting and writing in this, is you can literally see the gears turning in his head in those scenes. Like, you can literally see like the
even
like,
when Lionel, Leslie Odom Jr.'s character, is just like, why didn't you just burn the fucking note? And then he burns it later, and then Miles points at Lionel like,
yeah, right. Like, thanks for the idea. Like, you're like, oh my god,
he's a fucking moron.
I love it, because it's like these morons would have kept getting away with it too, if it wasn't for Blanc stepping in and just being able to tear them apart, and like piece by piece, like, and I think that's what makes this movie really work, is that like, even though they're all a bunch of dipshits, Benoit Blanc is able to like dissect them in such an easy way. It's really what makes this not only fun to watch, but it like really works with what he's doing here with this kind of glass onion. Like, these rich stupid assholes are trying to cover up something, like you're like I don't know, it's crazy.
You won't lie for a lie. You'll lie for a lie, but you won't lie for the truth.
Lie for the truth. I do love him being like, what was his line where I'm afraid speaking without knowledge is
it is a dangerous thing to what's it? It's like to compare speaking without thinking,
without thought,
speaking without thought for speaking the truth. Yeah,
I thought that was great. I was like, there you go. Like, you're like,
you're taking a few pot shots with a few people with that one.
Yeah, right. And then I love that Dave Bautista's character was kind of this like right-wing grifter of a character too, that he just like straight up was like, yeah, if I talk about man stuff, they get more clicks, and you're just like, okay. Like, you're like
rhino boner pills. Got him banned from Twitch. There was 0 rhino in those pills.
There was 0 rhino.
We gotta give it up. Some of that
shit was so funny.
We always gotta. We have to just continue to give it up to Batista. Batista can fucking act.
Yeah. No, I think it's like, I saw a very like, trying to get it was very clickbait title, but they were like, it's clear Dave Bautista's the best wrestler gone actor, and you're like, yeah, no fucking shit. Like, it's like if you saw Blade Runner, you'd be like, yo, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson could never fucking do that, like, and
it's funny that you brought up the 2049 bit, because that's the one I always bring up. It's just like that one performance, and he's in that movie for just a handful of minutes, is better than anything I've seen Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson do.
Oh, and it's like, and I'll give credit to John Cena. John Cena's able to bring out a lot in his performances. Yeah, I think even John Cena's a lot better than Dwayne. But I still got to give it to Batista, like, I think he is able to just like become the role and just be whoever that character is, instead of being The Rock.
He cares about the craft,
instead of being The Rock as as whoever, you know, like it's like it always feels like it's John Cena as this character, it's Dwayne the Rock Johnson as this character, not that character as Dave Bautista is able to do constantly, you know, like, and I think that's it's like they're all actors. I mean, they're all wrestlers. They're acting half the time, so they have the inherent skill. I don't think they're bad actors in any respect. I think Dwayne can get still an emotional response when he really tries, you know, when he really wants to, he can do it. I just think that there's I think nobody can compare to Batista at the moment, you know, like you're like, dang, like he's really fucking putting that shit out there and doing it well. Now my thing that my criticism now my thing where I will hate on Glass Onion a little bit is I don't think it's as, I think it's just as enjoyable as Knives Out. I want to say that. But I don't think it moves as fast or as agile as Knives Out was. You know what I mean? Where Knives Out feels like this lightning in the bottle type of movie where he's feeling like, it feels like he's containing this story. Like he's holding in a fucking bottle.
I think it's like the reset and then switching to Helen disguising herself as Andy and going through that whole thing where you pretty much go through the visit to the island again from a different point of view. I think that's
which is great.
What feels
which
like the lull. It's very well done, but yeah, it does feel like it goes on.
Yeah, I think they did a great job of that, but I feel like it slows it down a little. And I think that I don't think it's a detriment. I don't think that this is like, I'm not sitting there being like bored, like what the fuck's going on. I'm just saying that's my main criticism if we're going to actually compare the two movies, is that Knives Out feels like it's fucking running, you know, constantly, and it's like bouncing between things. And I think that this does not feel as sprinting as Knives Out does. That's not a bad thing, but it is what I think is the main feeling. Like if you still enjoyed this movie, but you're like, why is it different than Knives Out? That's, I think, the feeling going on. I could be wrong, but I feel like for me, that's what it was. I'm like, it's just not.
I did a group watch of both Knives Out and Glass Onion back to back.
Wow.
In my Discord server, and
that's
everyone super enjoyed it. There was only one person who was just like, wow, I actually like that even more. And everyone else was like, no. Everyone else like really liked it. It's like, no, that was great. They're both great movies, but Knives Out is better.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah, it's
But he also liked it because it went bigger and because of the scale.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, is that I think they did it right by this being it feels like a sequel where it's like it's bigger, it's louder, it's a lot.
It's also more transgressive.
Yes, yeah.
Like the big fuck you at the end, with like throwing the clear into the vents, is an even bigger fuck you than Marta ending up with the house.
Right. It's a huge fuck you, and that's the thing, is I kind of loved the. Have you seen The Menu yet? I know they've been trying to push you on
Not
this.
Yet.
God, you gotta watch it, because this feels like the same vein where we're getting two movies in the same year that are both just big fuck yous to rich people, and a big, like, the lesson is burn the rich down. You know, like you're like, hey, what's the lesson at the end? Burn the fucker to the ground. You're like, oh, okay. Like, you know, like you're like, okay, is that really the lesson? And they're like, oh, yeah, it is. Let's go. And you're like, okay. Like, I feel like that's kind of the vibe for both of these movies. And I think that's kind of funny why we got both of these movies in the same year, where they're both very like, yeah, at the end we burn down the rich people. You know, like that's what we do. You know, like,
yeah,
and you're
Ready
like,
or Not also had that same vibe.
Yes, which I still need to see that. I was excited.
It's so much fun.
I those trailers were so good that I was like, okay, that's gonna be a fun movie. You know, like it seems like a good time. I think that's it. Not to be too political or talk about anything. It's not even political. It's class. It's not political. The rich are fucking you. Not to be anything. The rich are fucking you. So it's a reasonable response to be like, hey, they have literally ruined the world and the planet and my life. Let's fuck these people. I feel like it's a very reasonable response, you know, like, and I that's why I kind of really dug this movie in a lot of ways, where it is a very like, I like a movie that's just like, hey, guess what? Fuck them people, you know, like, and you're like, yeah, sure.
I mean, that's
yeah,
why I love that's why I love the new Candyman so much.
Yes, right? Like, it's a big, like, fuck you to rich art collectors. You're like, yeah, fuck yeah. Or people who genderfy the fuck out of these places without a thought of what
and literally
that means.
just like turning it on its head to be like, no, Candyman is not our monster. Candyman, it can be our weapon. You're like, oh, yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's the fun of that one. Did we do an episode on that Candyman? I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah, so go check out that episode. Yeah, I was like, we definitely did that. So my last things that I have for this movie, that I think that my other criticism that I think that's another reason why people feel like it's, well, the reason why I don't feel it feels is lightning in the bottle, is that there is some repeated beats from Knives Out here. I feel like there is some moments that's what you do in a sequel. You do something from the previous movie to feel like you're referencing, and also it building, you know, like you're building on something. But I feel like that's what's a little bit going on here, is that you kind of expect things now from a Knives Out movie. And I think that that's kind of going to be the, you know, the thing moving forward.
Challenge for a third movie, yeah.
Yeah, is that like Johnson is so good at subverting expectations that we're going into the third one. We went into this one with already being like, he's going to subvert my expectations, you know, like, and then I think that that's going to even be the even crazier one for 3, is that how do you subvert the subversion? When you subvert
so much, then that just becomes the new expectation.
Yeah. And you're just like, I think that that's kind of, it's interesting, you know, like,
and hey, that's the challenge. But then again, making a sequel to Knives Out was always going to be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I'd said that from the jump. I'm like, another one? Okay, that's going to be difficult, because Knives Out's kind of the whodunit to end whodunits.
Right? When you write the whodunit to end whodunit, how do you follow it up with the sequel? Well, you do it like this, you know, like, I feel like this is how you do it, but then where do you go? I'm excited. I really am, because I feel like you can go anywhere. But I'm wondering how 3 will go. Now, my last thing, just talking about the fun of the writing, the Troy writing references in this, that the two sisters are literally Cassandra and Helen. I fucking love that. Like, is that, that Helen is literally is literally the wooden horse the whole movie, and then and Cassandra literally saw the future. She came up with the model for their business for her and Miles, and just completely knew what her dipshit friends were going to do, you know, like, it's like totally, I thought that was so great that, like, even though Rian Johnson is subverting all these expectations, he's still bringing up these classic stories to still relate to. I feel like that's important.
Yeah, I mean, that was the core of The Last Jedi, too. It was the idea of just, like, there are more to, like, storytelling than just, like, pulling on the medieval, like, the son of the king, etc.
Yeah.
Which is why we pulled the Rey stuff. We're like, no, you don't have to be fucking related to a legacy character to be special.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think that that's, you know, why it's kind of stupid at the end when the, you know, what's his fucking name? Made Abrams,
whatever.
He's like, whatever. She's a Skywalker. You're like, you're like, oh, that's not so good, guys. Maybe you shouldn't have backtracked on that shit, you know. But
just whatever. Like, look, we all love like classic medieval style, like Euro folklore like that, but there is sort of like an inherent eugenics thing going on with it. So maybe we don't really need to do that anymore. It's fine for the actual context of it, but come on.
Come on.
We can move on.
Let's move on. Exactly. And I hope that if we get any other Star Wars movies, they kind of take that into consideration. You're like, fuck.
Even beyond Star Wars, I just need adaptations of other authors. Like the fantasy genre is huge right now for diversifying and trying new things and moving on from like European style medieval fantasy.
That's why I'm so
like
excited about
I just
Scott
need
Snyder.
one fucking Brandon Sanderson book to get adapted finally, just to be like, wow, look at this. This is changing everything.
That's why I'm excited that they're finally adapting Witches at Amazon for Scott Snyder, because it's one of those things where you're like, literally every time Scott Snyder writes something, he's like subverting those expectations and making it so much better than it was before. Like witches, vampires, Batman, the man's a fucking god. And again, they haven't given him his due
undersea
yet.
creatures with the Wake.
Yes, true. Though if they don't make a Wake series at Amazon, they're fucking wrong. That's all I'm saying.
I need an American Vampire adaptation too. I just read through all of it recently.
Doesn't that feel like an Amazon adaptation though? American Vampires, that feels like right up their alley. That feels like it would slot right in, you know, like, and I don't know why that
recommendation. Read pretty much anything Scott Snyder writes. You'll probably have a good time. I just read through all of American Vampire now that it's over. So fucking good.
That's awesome. I love that. And you read the Tom King Supergirl, you said, and it was great.
It was fantastic. The best thing I've ever read from him. Where the fuck did that come from? I almost cried reading it. That was almost Neil Gaiman-esque. What the fuck?
Okay, I'm excited.
So yeah, if the movie for that is going to be half as good as that comic, we're going to be in for something special.
Oh man, that's awesome. I hope so.
Get it if you can. I know it's hard because it's kind of sold out physically everywhere now, which is why I fucking bought it digitally.
But I think that's, I mean, we're going off on a tangent, but I think that was the most genius thing DC did overall. Like, it's the first step of them one-upping Marvel. Because Marvel doesn't sit there going, hey, this movie coming out, it's based on this. You know, like, they don't often do that. They just kind of are like, it's a loose adaptation of Infinity, or they'll name it after a comic, but they won't be like, we're doing it after this comic. They'll just name it after something. Mm-hmm. And I think that was what was so important here, that they were like, yo, here's Grant Morrison's Batman. That's what we're doing. We're doing Tom King's Supergirl. That's what we're doing, you know, like, so that way people could go and read those books. It also helps that, like, Gunn is
clearly a comic book fan, and you can, like, feel the enthusiasm with the announcement video to be like, oh, we're basing off of this. Like, oh, this Supergirl book came out last year. We want to adapt it. That's immediately like, shit, this must be really good.
I know. It made me be like, what the fuck? You know, because, like, studios are always, like, 5 years behind on comics, and you're like, that's fair, I guess. But, like, this, you're like,
I mean, the New 52 was 2011, and we're just now getting, like, stuff pulled from it as it's part of the history now.
I know.
Just like, yo, you heard of the Court of Owls? Like, yeah, motherfucker, I've heard of the Court of Owls.
Yeah, motherfucker. I know. I it's hard sometimes being a longtime Batman fan, because you're like, yeah, I love Batman, and then people will be like wanting to talk to you about Batman, but like they're like, have you heard about the Court of Owls? And you're like, no fucking shit, bro. I was there. You know, like, you're like, I was fucking there.
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
We're not gatekeeping. We're just saying I was there. I get
frustrating. The same thing when the Sandman came out. It's just like, yeah, bitch. Yes.
Yeah, bitch. Yeah.
I know the Sandman.
You and me have been yelling about the Sandman since we've done our podcast. So, like, since almost 10 years of us being like, yo, Sandman's wicked fucking good. You know, like, we pretty much often.
So guys, if this tangent resonates for you, bully Frank into finally watching the Sandman so we can do an episode on it.
I will. I promise. I'm trying to do all the Oscar movies right now. I'm doing a decent job. Not doing great, but I'm moving through them. I'm trying my damnedest. But really, I think that's we're gonna stop our tangent because we're going way off the fucking track. But guys, thank you so much for supporting the show. First off, go watch Glass Onion. Basically, our final review. We don't really score. We do. Our scores are if you should own it. Mostly it goes pre-order it, own it, wait for a sale and don't buy it. That's how we rate
Which,
usually things.
To be fair, doesn't apply too hard when it's a straight to streaming movie.
No, but there will be a
owning it
they already
physically-
said there's a Blu-ray. They already said there's going to be a Blu-ray. Same as Knives Out already got Blu-ray. The Glass Onion will get a Blu-ray.
I hope it's a nice steel book like the Knives Out one, because that is gorgeous.
Now, what would you say, Deshaun? Is this a pre-order for you? Because I mean, you were the one who watched it day of, right? And then now you've watched it 4 times.
I can't remember if it was day of or the day after, but it was definitely like, I did want to see it in theaters, but it was like a very limited release.
It was only 2
like
weeks. Yeah, it was only 2 weeks, and in certain theaters, it was kind of rough to go see. But
and it was already rough. Like, I didn't have fuck you money like that. I was doing Christmas shopping.
Yeah, that's true, right? So what is?
Yeah,
it?
like
What
it
is
comes
for
out.
you?
It comes out physically. I'm gonna get it, and I'm gonna try to get it ahead of time.
Yes, I'm with you on this. This is for me either a pre-order or a get it. Like, this is not, you don't have to wait for a sale for Glass Onion, even though you might, because it's on a streaming service, you know, like you're kind of like, I'll wait for it to be $15 or something.
I mean,
like
fuck
that.
it. Marriage Story is a Netflix film. I got the Criterion for that.
Yeah, but it's such a nice
as soon as it came out.
Christ, it's beautiful. Fuck. It's a fucking and it's so cheap on Amazon right now, guys. If you don't own any Criterion Collection Blu-rays and you're like, where do I start? Marriage Story is like $15 for a fucking Criterion Blu-ray. It's a good buy. Like you're like, hey, that's a worthwhile buy.
And also, let's be honest, maybe it's probably best to like buy all the Netflix stuff that goes physically now while you still can, because this shit is looking like a sinking ship.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of have to bring that up because we're talking about a Netflix movie, is that they're Netflix password sharing. So I obviously the rules that they put out, they revoked them. They were dumb. That wasn't going to work. I of course think that they should be able to make their money, but also they are offering a service that's basically only an alternative to, other than their originals, to fucking pirating. You know, like, people are this fucking close all the time to just being like, I'll go find that for free on the fucking internet. And if you become even this much inconvenient, people are going to be like, well, fuck, I'm going to go watch it. I'm going to go steal it. Like,
that's the thing. Like, you and I moved to streaming in a big bad way just because it became so convenient.
Right.
But the moment you have to do a step or two more than your competition, people are going to be like, fuck it. This is too much work.
When I heard
no
the
one
news,
wants to go through
I
a
was
fucking
totally
vetting process just because they're on vacation.
Exactly. My thing is that I love Netflix. I mean, we're talking about a Netflix movie, a movie that wouldn't have been possible without Netflix. So I have a lot of respect for Netflix. I love Netflix. But I would have dropped you like a bad fucking hat, Netflix, the minute you fucking put in these new rules. Like, if you tried to restrict me, so my mom, I can't pay for my mom's fucking Netflix is what you're telling me. You know, like, you're telling me I have to like buy a whole other thing, even though you've already offered this as part of your service. Like, that's my problem, is that you don't offer this as part of your service if you don't want to do that. You know, like, if you don't want to do that, don't offer it already. You know, like, you already gave us 6 accounts for some reason and they can be anywhere. So of course they're going to fill them up with people. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's one of those things where you're just like, you're the one offering this. It's not like we're the ones stealing from you by giving it to other friends. Like, you're the idiot who offered
that
it.
That initial like plan was even more restrictive than Amazon.
Yeah,
like, my brother uses my Prime Video and my Prime, honestly, to have like stuff shipped. And every single time he logs in to do that, I get a notification on my phone just like, yo, someone from this area is trying to do it. Approve or deny. I'm like, bam, there you go.
Right, you're like,
but
okay,
that's Prime. There's more than just a streaming service on there. It has addresses on it, so you should not be more restrictive than them.
And it's one of those things that what other services do I have right now where I am currently paying for? So other than Netflix, Prime, Disney Plus, I get HBO from a family member, Paramount Plus, and Crunchyroll. I don't need you, Netflix. Like, that's my thing about this is like, I appreciate Netflix and I want those Netflix originals, but the
they're
minute
no longer
you,
the only game in town.
and they're one of the more expensive games in town at the moment. If you want the fucking HD 4K package, it's fucking $16. And like, and that's a month. And you're kind of like, that's a lot of fucking cash at the end of the year, you know, like for a service. And like, I think
service that continues to like cancel its content.
Yeah. And move it other places, you know, like, and you're just kind of like, what the fuck? It's one of those things that if you make it inconvenient, people will just move over to Disney Plus. People will just move over to HBO Max. You are not the only game in town, Netflix. You're gonna get fucked if you play this game. Is all I'm saying. Like I know I've talked a big leftist social uprising fucking game today, but I feel like that's might happen with Netflix. Is that people will speak with their money and they'll fucking leave.
You already have the reputation of like dumped on Netflix as the new straight to video.
Yeah.
And now you're getting the like reputation that Fox used to have. Just like, oh, it's a new Fox show. It's a new Netflix show. And cancel.
And it's dead. And it's dead.
Just like, unless you're The Simpsons, fuck off. Unless you're Stranger Things, fuck off.
I couldn't believe that they greenlit a second season of That 90s Show. I was like, holy shit. They canceled so many shows, but That 90s Show. And then I watched it. And hey guys, it's early review. I'm only 4 or 5 episodes in. It's pretty fucking good. I like 90s Show a lot. I'm laughing. I'm a big That 70s Show kid. I grew up watching it. I've watched every episode probably like 3-4 times with reruns. You know, like you just came home and That 70s Show was on. You know, like it was kind of like I went from SpongeBob to like That 70s Show for like the constant daily show. And like I love That 70s Show. So to like watch the 90s Show, it plays on a lot of nostalgia, but it's actually pretty fun and well written, and I'm having a good time. And they make Batman Forever references, so I thought that was pretty great. Like I was like, they were like, we have tickets to Batman Forever. I hear it's gonna be great. And I'm like, oh. I thought that was great. But it's like. Yeah, and in a world where, you know, we have How I Met Your Mother and That 90s Show, That 90s Show is far better. You know, like where you're like, hey, that's even though That 70s Show didn't end well, here, let us redeem ourselves by like kind of rewriting the ending of that show and doing That 90s Show. And you're like, thumbs up. you're like, I'm okay with that. Thumbs up.
I love all the constant like, we're sorry, like revivals that we've gotten lately. Like, yeah, also right? For the record, I watched Dexter Cold Blood. Actually pretty good.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't perfect, but it was definitely the original showrunner being like, let me come back for a miniseries and try to give this a better exit.
And did you hear that now that they're combining Paramount and Starz, they're gonna make a Dexter spinoff. They're gonna do more Dexter stuff.
They can try. I get why, given the way that Dexter Cold Blood ended, but it's not gonna work. It's one of those things where like they were to turn a mini series into a full series. Like that Cold Blood was meant to be an epilogue to wrap this up properly.
And they're definitely like, how do we make more money from that? And you're like,
yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing as them being like, they announced yesterday, we're going to make a Zootopia sequel. I'm like, you don't have to. Like,
I actually want that. Don't listen to him. I want that. I think there's so much to explore with a Zootopia sequel.
They announced Zootopia, another Toy Story, and
that's what I don't need is another Toy Story.
But the last one was good. What you gonna complain? 4 was good. 3 was good.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, but 4 was already pushing it.
I know 4 was pushing it. They're dealing with getting older and becoming obsolescent. Like, what the fuck is the next one gonna be about? Death? We're just gonna deal with death the next one?
And it's also just like leave well enough alone, because rule of averages, you're gonna fuck up eventually.
Yes, yeah. And I think they announced something else. It's definitely the new Disney CEO being back, that he's just kind of like, we're gonna follow the money, and everyone in the company's like, yeah, like they're like, yeah, we're gonna follow the money, like, and that's what's gonna happen. But guys, we've gotten really off track. thank you guys for supporting the show. Thank you for supporting the Warp Shelf, where you can listen any podcast platform you want, or you can watch us and see our beautiful faces on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and make the algorithm work below, so we can continue. I'm lying. We're going to continue to do this, but support us in doing this.
Anyway. It'd be nice. It'd be nice.
It'd be nice.
It'd be very polite.
But we want to hear your opinions on Glass Onion. Did you think it was too stupid? We were talking about how it's like kind of fun that it's stupid, but like, do you think it's too stupid? We want to hear you down below. We want to have that conversation. I will go to Deshaun and be like, Deshaun, I need you to. Somebody wrote a paragraph. I need you to respond to that paragraph, and don't worry. If you have a long opinion, we'll respond to it. So please, we would love to talk to you. If you like to talk to us on, the subscriptions or anywhere in the comments, you can also check us out. We have a Discord, which you can find on our YouTube page. You can go to the links. So we got Discord for the Warp Shelf, which is a lot of fun. It's a good time. It's kind of like our daily sounding off place,
Also recommendations. Like if you have a series of like murder / detective mysteries outside of the usual canon, like Agatha Christie, like Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that you really, really dig, like me with the Dresden Files, because it's all that shit, and a dragon might show up, so it's better.
I don't think I said that this episode, is that I was a Sherlock Holmes kid. I was an Encyclopedia Brown kid. I didn't read the brothers, the Harvey brothers, the whatever they're fucking called. I didn't read them. Hardy Boys. I didn't read. Yeah. I read pretty much every other mystery person though. I was a huge mystery kid, so like that's why Glass Onion I feel like means a lot to me, is that I need more murder mysteries. I need good ones, and I'm glad we are getting more.
You should read the Dresden Files.
He says that every time we hang out. But
still
guys,
less annoying than you being like, yo, the Switch Pro's coming out this year.
No. Okay. I not to tangent again, but that direct just showed me they don't give a fuck about no Switch Pro. That's what I got from that whole direct the other day, was just me being like, yeah, they don't give a fuck about no Switch Pro. They're like, year 5 of the Switch, still going strong, baby. And they just passed into the top 3 most sold console of all time. I don't think they give a fuck. They
definitely don't feel like they need it. And you have a Steam Deck now anyway. Who cares?
Oh, I have the Switch Pro. I have the Steam Deck. I don't care. I was watching the direct being like, okay, so it's got to be something good enough to drag me away from my Steam Deck, which I didn't have the perspective of that before. I had every time before, it was just like, please, Nintendo, give me the good stuff, and that's all I could ask for. But now I'm like, yo, I'm playing fucking Elden Ring. I don't give a fuck, bro. I'm like, oh, I got God of War on the back deck. I got Spider-Man on the back deck. I'm like, I'm good, bro. I whatever you announce, I got 250 games on Steam. I'm set.
Exactly, Frank. Imagine that.
It's true though. It's quite the different,
But anyways,
sound
off in the Discord, in the comments, support us everywhere we are.
Yes, if you want to check us out on our personal things on Twitter or otherwise, I'm Frank on there.
Mod Karika.
And I also do Gundams on Gundam. Also, we do live streams pretty much weekly. I've been busy the past 2 weeks. I was sick, and then this week was nuts. But I want to be streaming Gundam builds on this channel pretty much weekly. You can check the 4 or 5 I've done already on the live section of the tab on YouTube. And pretty much it's just a chill session of me building or a certain topic thing. Like I did Smash or Pass all the SD Gundams, which, was a weird good time. But I want to continue to do that sort of content on this channel also. It's like you have the podcast, but the podcast has to be supplemental to the other things too, so hopefully you guys will check out the other things that will be happening on this channel. And guys, thank you so much. Thank you. And be sure to keep looking forward to more episodes of the Warp Shelf podcast. We, of course, will be doing more of the AFI Top 100 coming up. And we have a few other movies we want to talk about. There's lots to talk about with the Oscars coming up very soon. So we'll definitely do whatever wins the best picture. We'll do as an episode, so don't worry. We've done that every year that we've done it. I think we've done 3 of those. Well, this will be our 3rd one. So I want to do that again this year. So I think that for like slate to look forward to, AFI Top 100 list continuing, whoever wins best picture at the Oscars, and then of course what's good, you know, whatever's good out there. We're going to talk about it. But guys, thank you so much for listening in and supporting the show, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
See you next time.